And she's like, of course I'm cute. Of course I'm number one. I love these two. Welcome back to another wonderful episode of Wonderful Precure, and we are on episode 31. Nyanfluencer Mayu. I don't even know how to... the pun's not doing what it's supposed to do, but nonetheless, it's a cute episode, so we're gonna talk about it. I love this texture right off the bat that they do to showcase it, like, or taking like a photo or a video of Yuki. I like that they make it very distinct and they have like the pixel kind of texture over top of it. It's cute. It's good design, in my opinion. All of this leading up to Mayu's mother, of all people, being the one suggesting that Mayu use social media, which at this point it's turning into a participation trophy, but I'm happy to give it. I like that this episode does not paint social media in a negative light. I feel like so many series will take that as low-hanging fruit, but this, I feel like, handles the concept much better than a lot of other series do. They don't really have like a hard take on whether social media is bad or good, and for the most part it's just like a fun thing for Mayu to do, so I appreciate what the series does with social media for this episode. And honestly, I think it's so cute that her mom's the one encouraging her, being like, this is good marketing and you have fun with it, and it's cute because our cat is the most adorable thing under the sun, and they would be correct. But I also like that Mayu is the one who's more reserved about it, and specifically because she is worried about the internet being stinky and people being mean, which is so valid. Like 100% you're gonna get bad comments, even if it's something as precious and adorable and non-controversial as a cat. You will get hate comments, and you know what, Mayu being able to take that in strides is huge for a character in general. Like, not even like any one particular cure in the series or franchise as a whole. Like, that's internet hate is definitely a thing to deal with. But also, I like Nico out here dropping like the biggest truth bomb in the middle of this, where while discussing Mayu's hesitation to doing social media, she says it's really difficult to change people's minds if they've already decided that they don't like you. And that's so hardcore. That's oof. Nico-sama. Like, it's making more and more sense for her to be an idol and how that's sort of intermingling with the crowd, because she seems to have a little bit more awareness with like emotion. Like, compared to the other god-esque characters we've gotten throughout the franchise, they've been very like disconnected from reality and just like, I am a shimmering god and light must win and da-da-da-da, which has been fine and they have their place. But I like that Nico-sama has lived the idol lifestyle and is a little bit more aware of thoughts and feelings. Obviously, I think we still need to do some convincing for her to understand that the world's a better place and they don't need to run away to the garden and there can be harmony. I like that she does add what she adds to it. It's been kind of nice. I was not really expecting that. And then Yuki for MVP of the episode. Yuki is absolutely a little delight the whole episode, encouraging Mayu in the ways that she can while also not pushing it, where she's like, I'm fine to do the social media thing, like I have no hesitations for it, but I think we should do what Mayu wants to do. But also being like, Mayu, you can do it if you genuinely do it. It's just so sweet, precious, good episode. I also like wanted to take a second to appreciate like this design, the cell phone, because obviously our Curesta is a bit on Instagram, but I like how they did their little logo because it also still has the same color palette as Instagram with the sort of the yellow, purple, and pink, all in that like square icon with the white being the logo. But I like that it's like a meteor shower of hearts. I think that's precious. I love the typography for Curesta. It's pretty. I also just like the general phone having all the bits where they have like the battery, the Bluetooth is turned on, this girl's got 5G. I also, I'm kind of curious, did they sneak in the Google Drive icon there? And is the triangle not the Google Drive icon? I don't know if there's some other service in Japan that has a similar logo. But obviously she's got like text messaging and whatnot. Some of the other symbols I don't recognize. I think they may just either be apps I don't use or apps that are unique to Japan. I'm sure one of these is supposed to be a line reference. It might be the speech bubble. But maybe it's just recycling? I don't know, it looks like the Google Drive one. It's throwing me off. I also love like this whole moment of the first post, because for me in my social media journey, this was definitely something that I had to like hold my breath on, which mind you, my very first post, like when I really started to take social media a little more seriously, is gone. It is a removed world. But I definitely remember the day sitting there in my room with my little kitty being like, should I post? Should I post something? And lo and behold, I did, and it was worth it because I enjoy making content. And so this whole moment, very relatable. While I may not have been living a floor above a makeup shop. It's still very similar experience. I like her little crew being very supportive and being like, oh, Mayu's taking off. She's so great. Look at her go with her little social media. They're just, the squad's cute. They also kind of keep everybody, again, relevant in the episode despite these three not having as big a focus. Also, shout out to the bit of like a cat pushing a bottle, but instead of pushing it off the table, Yuki is so great and so amazing that she pushes it in line. Miss Ma'am! And then Mayu also very hesitantly, like, you know, taking in all the praise of people like, girl, your cat is so cute, which obviously not. Of course she's gonna be so cute. I do. And then Yuki being like, that's right, my girl Mayu. I have never loved it more than a franchise taking a character who fits in that kind of sassy diva-y trope and then making her not care about herself but very passionate about her friend. I love it. It's so good seeing her being like, yeah, that's my Mayu, she's doing really well. So precious. And then we get our slew of hate comments, which, mind you, these are like interesting quote-unquote hate comments because people are like, we just care about that cat, we don't care about the makeup, which, you know, not surprising to be that kind of comment, but, you know, she's holding it in strides because where you get a few like kind of, they're more like backhanded compliment kind of comments, you do have the encouraging ones. And it's just, and we have Yuki there, which honestly I think is the best part, because reading hate comments is reading hate comments, but having Yuki sit there and be like, I'm here for you, girl. Precious. Like, look at these two. And she's like, of course I'm cute. Of course I'm number one. I love these two. I absolutely love the pairing of the one who has too much confidence and the one who has too little confidence and how they balance out. Like, honestly, I don't know if I'm going to like just a dynamic as much as I really like how they handled Yuki and Mayu and how it's kind of evolved in the series and how much they care about each other. They're so adorable. Look at them. Oh. And then we bring it full circle to Yuma, which, mind you, a couple episodes was the girl who rejected Mayu, misunderstanding her whole like zoning in mode, and she's picking up on the vibes. She's like, oh, is that cat? I've seen that cat before. Could it be the girl who has now moved a singular town over? Could that be Mayu? We move over to our villain Zakuro. Mwah, mwah, chef's kiss. This is like the whole episode is so good because not only are we having like a pretty decent A-plot, but we just really do such a phenomenal job bringing in the whole bit of the story where Zakuro is experiencing that, for the most part in Animal Town, the relationship between animals and people is like above average compared to most towns. It's just excellent. They're doing real well together. Her just being absolutely infuriated by that. Like, it's just great to get a little bit more of the villain. And then to see her do this whole comedic bit where she's like, oh my god, I did all of this for you. Aren't I the best? And then pretending to be him and being like, yeah, you're so great. You're so amazing. I love this bit. It's so funny. And then, of course, in the most, like, goofy, silly, everybody comes full circle, we learn that Yuma is Iroha's cousin. Because, of course, why not? The girl over comes to the one vet that's in the town over and has her chinchilla, which we learn what a chinchilla is, which I don't know if anybody else. I grew up with way too many people who had chinchillas, so they're very, very common for me. But I can see that being not a normal pet in Japan, or not a common pet. But, of course, like, you know, cousins, and would you believe it? Like, crazy, kooky coincidence. This girl who's popping up on social media, who's our friend Mayu, is also the Mayu, and she's like, oh my god, is that Mayu? And oh my god, it is Mayu! I will say, it has been, like, what, 20? It's been a lot of episodes since Mayu has had her, like, zoning in thing. I feel like they don't consistently have that in the series. For someone who'd probably do it, like, a little bit more on the daily. It feels like, oh, we probably should have thrown that in an episode sooner to this one. Because her, like, conveniently going into, or more specifically, inconveniently going into the zoning in mode right when Yuma walks by. And then Yuma being like, Mayu, or Nakoyashiki-san, hello, hello, in, like, the quietest voice, and Mayu's like, I'm zoning. It's something. It sure is something. It would be that kind of timing. Also, I do think Yuki could have probably interfered a little bit sooner. Listen, it's great that Yuki's like, Mayu, girl, that classmate who you had beef with, he's here. Sounded like you guys should have resolved that, and then not done it soon enough because Yuma vanished in the winds like she was a cure. It's wild. But of course, you know, we have to have the episode play out, so I get why it happened. I just thought it was like, Yuki could have saved the day a little sooner. And then, of course, we see Mayu fall apart being like, I had a chance to resolve this and I ruined it again. Oh, I'm like, poor baby, poor baby. And she also just bad luck. This poor girl, every time she just happens to be zoned in. For the once in the blue moon where she zones in is the one time when Yuma walks by, of course. But I do love that we showcase the resolve that she has gotten, the confidence that she's built from the episode where we talked about her having friend issues to now. She's like, why don't I just sort this out? We're gonna do this. We can go find her. We're gonna sort it out. To be fair, if it were not for the things that happened in this episode, she absolutely would have not resolved that because she and Yuki just go walking. And I'm like, that girl was in a car. You would have never caught up with her. But much to her dismay, but the fortune of the series, she's having a little sad moment with her chinchilla that becomes a victim. Also, Zakuro's animation here is really good. I thought it was really, it's really pretty. I love these like traditional ones and like the uniqueness of the fire that they have, and just, I love it. It's very unique from the typical villain kind of evil transformation summoning sequence. This one's really nice. I also absolutely adore, and I hope this is what they do for the rest of the season. Like, we have been up to this point saving the Nico Garden animal, and I have this kind of hate-love relationship with that concept throughout the franchise, like as a whole. There's some seasons where the things that get transformed are just like a rock on the side of the road and you're like, okay. And then other seasons, they have a little bit more going for them where it's usually the victim is somebody important. I like that we're finally going back to the victim being something that matters to the civilian characters. I feel like seasons that do that tend to be stronger. Like, anybody who got transformed in Go Princess, to me, I feel like really hit because they all got captured under the pretense of like whatever dream they had getting locked up, and we had to try to rescue that. Here, the Nico animals, I feel like, has struck kind of a balance of being better than, to be honest, like Hiroguru Sky, where most of the time we just like would transform the local tractor that's sitting conveniently away. The Nico animals have a little bit more personality, and some Nico animals have been better than others. Like, I think the one with the gorilla was a better episode because we had the connection of the child gorilla and we were trying to save the mother gorilla. But I think I really appreciate that the creature that got transformed in season 1 was the chinchilla owned by Yuma. I think his name was Kotetsu Donko. I also wanted to point out why this whole like battle goes down. There's so many times where Lillian's like, oh my god, it's my friend, it's my friend from my old school. Like, nearly says her name multiple times, like, Miss Ma'am, not while you're a cure. You are very fortunate that she just passed out. You're so fortunate that she just passed out. Instead of just name dropping her over and over again, being like, oh my god, girl who is my friend. Like, thank god she is distracted by trying to save her chinchilla to not notice Lillian constantly name dropping her and knowing who she is. But to get into the more serious aspect, we kind of, why this is so good with it not being an Ego Garden animal and being an animal that's relevant to one of our characters. I guess really just being relevant to the characters makes it more. She talks about the fact that after me and Yuma had that fight, I can imagine that she must have been hurting in the same way I was, but who was there to take care of her but her pet? In the way that Yuki comforted me, Yuma's chinchilla comforted her. I love the parallel here. It really just, it feels like everything that they wanted to do this episode really comes full circle to it. Even with the social media thing not necessarily being completely relevant to her relationship with Yuma and patching that up, because I was curious how they were going to connect to these two topics, and I feel like they did a really good job. I feel like having the conversation about her being an influencer and her past controversies, making her not want to do that, but also ultimately deciding to put herself out there, and the fact that she put herself out there has led to this whole spiraling of her reconnecting. And we try to, of course, we've got to try once to save the chinchilla and it fail, but with the power of friendship and teamwork and, you know, supporting the friend who needs you the most at the moment, she's able to weave a stronger net. Which also, like, this, just to take it aside, she feels very, very Pure Prism this season, which I absolutely love. Like, the whole, like, you know, I gotta charge up my skill and then let it do what it's gotta do. Love that. I love this kind of like feeling of her being like the prism of the group in that way. I love it. And then she of course throws the net, which manages to subdue the chinchilla, which she gives back to Yuma. Which I also just shout out to Yuma and her mother being like one of the very few characters we've seen in this franchise genuinely interact with these guys as cures, outside of everybody who knows the truth. I like this little passing of baton. I also think having like recognition of the Precure existing in the town might also be an interesting direction for the series to go, since we do now put out the fact that any animal can turn into a Galgoon. Especially since I don't know how many eggs we might have left over that were just like from before. Like, are we done with the Nico Garden? Are we going to have any more eggs? We don't necessarily need to, especially with the villains being more hyper-focused on the fact that there's all these animals not convinced that humans are bad. Anyways, we move back to these two ultimately bridging the gap between one another, with Mayu being able to articulate in her silly, goofy way of like, I never meant to ignore you, it's just kind of the way I am. And Yuma also very cutely kind of mirroring that. Like, we didn't get to see much of Yuma from the flashback that we saw with Mayu, but now that we get to see that a little bit more, the two of them are a lot more similar than I thought they would be. And Yuma is just a little bit more of a softer girl, and it's cute. I'm not used to Precure having such strong side characters, especially side characters that aren't going to be present for most of the series, be so well-rounded. I feel like Yuma's a great, memorable character, and the series doesn't have too many side characters, but it feels like the family that it's building is strong and consistent, because I know a lot of people's gripes with previous seasons, especially like something like Heartcatch. We meet characters for a singular episode, we solve their problem, but we basically never see them again until like maybe the end of the series, where we do a huge pan of every character that's been in the franchise, or every character that's been in the series. But this one, I feel like we get a lot of side characters that are designed, have personalities, and they revisit it, especially like the classmates are one of them, and then here we have Yuma. And then we have a couple other characters that we probably could revisit a little bit more, that it just feels like every single background character is intent, and I really, really like that. Overall, these two are able to reconcile, which is so cute. And then she finally gives her the little chinchilla handkerchief that she meant to give her before, that she was like hyper fixated on fixing, which I like the full circle. Also, it gives us a bit more of a time frame, because I have been curious how long it's been. I feel like it seemed to be in the direction that it was a year since everything went down with her, and then she just transferred schools and all of that happened very recently, rather than this being like old trauma. And this just like goes full circle and confirms that this was a gift that she was like a birthday present she wanted to give. That does put dates on things, which makes it a little bit easier. And then we have this cute little photo of all of the gang, which is very ironic because like Yuma does not interact with Satoru, so we just kind of threw him in there. But it's a cute little photo of all of them. I love it. Which leads us into what we will be dealing with next week, because a certain best girl is gonna show up next episode. Woo, I don't know how we're gonna shoehorn her in there. I also don't know if we're gonna see any other, like, I don't know, some special characters, maybe some witchy characters showing up. I don't know. Either way, these episodes have been so strong. I'm really glad that after we heard that one interview state that they were going to ramp up the second half of the season, and they have not disappointed. We have not had a slow episode. We have been full throttle, and we have been hitting characters. We've been throwing in a little bit of story. It's been great. I am very happy with the direction the series is going. I feel like we finally got back in the saddle as I wanted it to, and all my expectations are met. This series is doing exactly what I need it to do. It's been fantastic. I can't wait to see more. And I can't wait to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!